All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our special meeting of the Zoning Advisory Commission. It is November 29th, 2023. Call this meeting to order. Sheena, if you would please call roll.
Christ. Here. Russell.
Here.
Mulligan.
Here.
Lorman. Here. Norton is excused. Zaccaro. Here.
Very good. Sheena, can you confirm we are in compliance with the Iowa Open Meetings Law?
We are.
Okay, this evening on our agenda, we have one public hearing. The public hearing is regarding a traditional rezoning of 110 East 30th Street, 114 East 30th Street, and 2987 Jackson Street. The way this will work, we'll ask you to come up, state your name, state your address, state what it is that you're after from the commission. We may have a question or two for you, and we'll ask you to sit down at that point, and I'll open it up for a public hearing. And then after the fact, we'll ask for any rebuttals to what we hear, okay? So with that, if our applicant, if you'd step up to the podium, and you can begin.
My name's Chris Daver. I'm, asking for some rezoning for a parking lot. My address is, my personal address or the address of the location?
Your personal address, yeah.
1027 Barbara Lee Drive.
And we're asking for a rezoning for what reason?
To add parking to the existing restaurant.
Okay,
There's only street parking currently.
got it. Okay, commissioners, in front of you is the application form from Mr. Staver before he takes a seat. Are you all clear on what it is that he's asking for? I know you've read through it. Okay. Chris, I'll go ahead and have you sit down, and then I know we have a few folks here tonight, so what I'll do is I'll open it up for a public hearing. You'll come up and you'll state your name, your address, and your comments regarding the request. So with that, I'll open up the floor to a public hearing. So come on up.
Good evening. I am Katie Detterman. I live at 2685 Kaufman Avenue. And I am here with concerns that if there's a parking lot, how is that going to impact the traffic flow down in that area? My daughter lives at 2977 White Street. And last week, when I went down to visit her, I pulled into her driveway, and I could not pull out without her coming and saying, hey, wait a minute. Okay, back up, stop, go forward, back. And I have a new car with cameras on it. And I'm going, whoa, this is kind of scary. And then last week, I went down to her house, had some things to give her, and I parked on the street. Those people driving there were driving way too fast. And with the cars on one side and the cars on the other side, it's just one lane at this time. I thought, I could have gotten hit if I tried to get into my car. I see that there is some issues with down there in the north end. I kind of say the north end has been forgotten for many years. And now, as we're trying to bring in new businesses, we also have to think about how is it that it impacts that area. You know, we got falling bricks in one part, and that is, then Jackson is blocked. So it has to impact businesses that are down there because you can't get over there, and all that traffic is being funneled on to White Street, and that's a very narrow area. So I would like all of the people involved in making this decision and allowing that parking lot to calm our fears, or let us know that, I don't know how they're going to, if they put up a parking lot, how are they going to make sure that it's just only being used by people at the Copper Kettle? How is it going to be monitored? And I don't know when we're going to have the issue of the old brewery going away, and there's a remedy for that. But that does impact, and I would like to see the zoning committee, and I know the city of Dubuque has lost patience with that situation down there as well. And, I think you need to take all this in, and I just need to say, a little, they paved paradise to put up a parking lot.
Yeah.
Little Joni Mitchell,
Thank you, Katie.
because I'm from that era. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Anybody else this evening?
Chairman Mulligan, ladies and gentlemen of the commission, my name is Rick Dickinson. I'm the president of Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, which is located at 900 Jackson Street, and I reside at 205 Hill Street here in Dubuque. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your service. Secondly, I'd like to thank you for calling this special session as volunteers, to even volunteer more as testimony to you and your commitment to the city. But this is a very important issue, and I greatly appreciate the fact that you understand the urgency of the timing of this request for rezoning. And by the way, we ask your favorable consideration of this request, and have been working with Mr. Staver and the Copper Kettle on what is a critical issue for this this part of the culture of Dubuque, which is the Copper Kettle in the north end of Dubuque. I believe I understand and I agree with the previous speaker. We need to focus on the north end, and of course this is a business that has been there for some time and has built a clientele and a reputation that's part of the culture of our community. Unfortunately, across the street, the Dubuque Malt and Brewery building has continued to decline in its stability, and as a result, the city in its due diligence retained engineering firm that identified that it presented a hazard for anyone traveling on 29th and Jackson. And as a result, since August of this year, the street has been closed, which has had a detrimental impact on the Copper Kettle, and there's no resolution in sight. Other than that which is before you tonight, and that is an investment by the Copper Kettle to acquire 2 residential properties that they own currently to the west of the Copper Kettle, to raise those buildings and to put in parking, off-street parking, to better assure the survivability of this greatly appreciated amenity in our north end. It is pressing. Time is of the essence, and that's why we've asked your consideration of this special session. So I would request that you would approve it. It's appropriate. These houses are purchased by the Copper Kettle. They own the property immediately adjacent to this property to the south. This will reduce the impact upon whatever the resolution is of the Dubuque Malt and Brewery building for less stress on street parking for the neighbors in the community of the Copper Kettle. And I know that the Copper Kettle is very concerned about the well-being of their neighbors, and that's one of the reasons why they've sought this opportunity for, I think it's 15 to 16 parking spots. I don't know that to what degree they'll be able to develop it yet. The need is yesterday, but the sooner they're able to have some off-street parking, the greater the potential of sort of ebbing the negative impact to the Copper Kettle by restricting access on 29th and Jackson, and eliminating parking that's desperately needed for any retail or hospitality. So thank you for your favorable consideration of the request.
Thank you, Rick.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing? My name is, Emily Detterman. I live at 2977 White Street. I've been there for 14 years. First off, it's been a problem ever since the Copper Kettle opened back up. When I lived down there, my friends can't access my driveway because the employees park across the street from my driveway. I've had an instance where I've had to call the Copper Kettle and ask them to tell their customer to move because I couldn't get out of my house. It was dead of winter. I had snow piled at the end. I have a big electric pole at the end of my driveway, so it really dampers sometimes when I try to pull out of my driveway. If my friends can't access my driveway, they have to park on the street, and then there's not any street parking for my friends to park because it's all taken up by customers and employees of the Copper Kettle. It's a headache. It's stress. I don't know if, putting this parking lot there, is it going to cover all his employees and customers? Is it going to cause more traffic being on the corner? He already has a dent company on the other opposite corner of where the Copper Kettle is. So it's bringing traffic to that neighborhood, and it's a headache. It's usually one way, like my mom has explained. It's one way, up and down the street, and people do not drive slow. So I'm hoping that we can kind of find some kind of, answer. Otherwise, you can buy my house and I'll move. I don't want to deal with it. I really don't. It's a headache. It's been a stress to me, and I shouldn't have to worry about my friends wanting to come over to my house and not having to be able to park in my driveway. I'm a homeowner. I have a whole garage and a driveway that, I can use. So it's been a stress, and I hope that a lot of consideration goes into this because I've lived there and I don't want to move, but if it's going to be a problem, then I'll move. Sell me out. I don't have a problem leaving. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else this evening?
Hi, Mike Munch. I live currently at 2943 Elm Street, but I lived on Jackson Street at 2805 for about 10 years. Our house backs up to White Street, and I think, and right, it's like a racetrack back there. And part of that is street closures, part of that is it's kind of a shortcut. There's a lot of truck traffic from Prairie Farms and other places on Central, so people whiz through White Street. I think the parking lot is actually going to take a step towards solving what you're talking about, which I agree. We own Convivium Urban Farmstead, and we would love to have parking spaces to help the neighbors out and to help just the congestion in the area. If you've driven by those houses that Chris is talking about, they're ready to fall down anyway. It's not like you're taking cultural assets and destroying them by putting a parking lot in. So I just want to speak in support of this project. And Chris is a guy who, if you look at any of his projects, he does them right. He'll do it properly. He'll make the parking lot aesthetically appropriate and pleasing. So, project has my support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, Katie.
Thank you. Okay, Chris, so we're going to have the parking lot, and you would like cars to park there.
She needs to address us, not him.
Are you going to have?
Katie?
Oh,
So he will have the opportunity to speak about any comments that are made.
okay.
So
My question is, with this parking lot, are you going to have lights? It's going to be a lit parking lot, and how long will those lights be, they will be on full-time at night, or just when the Copper Kettle is open?
okay.
Okay, because those can be very bright, and that would, might be something that annoys neighbors, because those lights are bright and shining into their homes.
Sure. Thank you, Katie. Okay. Anybody else that would like to speak? All right, I will close the public hearing. Chris, we will give you the opportunity to rebuttal anything that you just heard, if you want to come on up. Specifically, I think you may want to discuss lighting.
I guess specifically lighting, I'll do whatever the city, asks me to do in terms of lighting. In my mind, I would think, some really low lighting for the exact reason she's talking about. I don't want to light it up and bother neighbors. I mean, a lot of this is to improve the neighborhood quality. Hopefully the parking does alleviate a lot of the issues they talked about. I think, low voltage type lighting around the perimeter that doesn't, light up the neighborhood would be appropriate and safe, without, impacting, people's sleeping and things like that.
Okay.
Other than that, I just think the parking lot will alleviate many of the things that they spoke on. So, I just hope you guys consider my request.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Chris. Okay, Sheena, your staff report, please.
Sheena Moon, Associate Planner. So the request before the commission this evening is a rezoning request. It does include, as we've discussed, 3 different properties. I'm just going to walk through those 3 lots right now. So on the screen before you, you'll see an image of 110 East 30th Street, which is currently zoned R2A, as well as the property just to the left of it in the image there, which is the red house here, 114 East 30th Street, which is also zoned R2A, which is an alternate 2-family residential zoning district. And then the property at the corner of Jackson and 30th Street, which is home to the currently to Copper Kettle Restaurant. And so this property specifically is currently zoned C1 neighborhood commercial. It's important to note that the Copper Kettle and a restaurant use on this property was established a number of years ago, and I believe, I'm going to double check my report, the mid-1950s. And so with that, it basically predates our current zoning regulations. And so this restaurant use in this location is currently what we consider a legally non-conforming condition. And so the proposed rezoning would do 2 things for the property owner. It would allow them to legalize the restaurant as a legal use on this property. So it would bring that into compliance with the zoning district. And then it would also allow them to develop a surface parking lot on the 2 properties adjacent to this along East 30th Street. So the subject properties together total approximately 2.3 acres. And as mentioned earlier, they're all under common ownership. The property owner is currently in the process of demolishing the 2 homes you see before you here in the image. So they are going through the appropriate channels to do that with the city's Inspection and Construction Services Division to tear those buildings down. They are, let's see here, sorry. So again, they are requesting to rezone this from R2A and C1 to C2. And so I'm going to pull up a chart here, just wanting to identify, again, just showing here where that indoor restaurant comes into play under the permitted uses in the C2 zoning district. Let's see here. So staff did take a look at some of the traffic counts that were provided for this area of the city, specifically along East 30th Street and White Street and Jackson Street. Many of those counts that we pull from the Iowa Department of Transportation were collected in 1975. So we do have some dated information there. However, one of the things that I think is important to note here is that the applicant is not looking to expand the capacity of the restaurant. So they're not looking to essentially be able to accommodate additional guests within their facility. They're really looking to just develop a parking lot to be able to help alleviate some of the current on-street parking. So it's not anticipated that this rezoning would necessarily directly generate additional traffic to the area, whereas if they were expanding, that could potentially increase the traffic flows beyond what is currently being coming to the area as far as traffic counts and traffic flow. So we don't anticipate that there will be a great increase in that traffic as a result of this rezoning at this point in time. I know there were a number of comments about the flow of the lot as well as, the layout of the lot and lighting. I wanted to note for the commission as well as those in the audience that the development of this lot for the purpose of parking will require review by the city's development review team. So that is comprised of multiple different departments. It includes planning, engineering, police, fire, a number of different housing, water distribution. All of those would take a look at what they're proposing here. And planning has already began some of those discussions with the city engineering, with the engineering department specifically, to kind of take a look at how traffic could potentially flow to and from this parking lot. We have discussed a one-way configuration, either coming from Waite Street and exiting 30th, or the reverse coming from 30th Street onto Waite Street. So that is all part of what's being reviewed and discussed as far as the site development is concerned. Also, with respect to the lighting questions specifically, the city does have code regulations that would restrict how much light can cast beyond the boundaries of the property line. So it's very limited that way. It also requires that we have our lighting fixtures, they have to have what we call a 72-degree cutoff luminaire. So it basically prevents a light from just casting, straight from a property onto a neighbor's property. So there's a shielding that occurs with those requirements, and this project would certainly be required to meet those development standards. I wanted to note also that staff has received a couple of letters from neighboring property owners, specifically a property owner on Jackson Street. This is Timothy, and this is provided to the commissioners this evening. Timothy Burke, who expressed that parking would be good, but he did have some concerns about trash in the area. So I want to note too that we would take a look at any trash receptacles or exterior trash areas as part of that site plan review. And then the other neighbor was on Waite Street as well, 2960 Waite Street. They expressed support of having additional or location for some of that parking, on-street parking to be taken and now placed off-street. They did have a concern that if there was a development of a building on the site, that would potentially, increase the parking on the street, that would be a concern for them. And so again, those copies of those letters have been provided to the commission this evening for their consideration. And with that, I have no further comments at this time, but we're happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you, Sheena. Any questions for staff? None? All right. Any conversation amongst the commission? Well, I think the letter there's a second letter here from an individual at 2960, and we heard it tonight. Our neighborhood's strapped for parking. They're parking in front of your driveway, and obviously they would assumingly rather not do that. So having parking available is the necessity. So this makes a lot of sense, and this has been exacerbated by what's going on at the adjacent corner with the Malton Brewing Company. So I think this is necessary and makes a lot of sense. So any other comments?
I do have a question for staff.
Yeah.
A lot of the items brought up tonight, it seems, are relevant to the development review team process with engineering or lighting and other things. So how do community members express their concerns specifically directly to the development review team?
So any development would be required to meet the city's minimum standards. That development review team process is generally not a public process, but we could certainly share the concerns expressed this evening, and then Wally may have some additional thoughts.
Yeah, I think the route will be just what we're doing right now. So we're one of the 5 departments, so whatever we hear, we definitely take in consideration. We take it to that meeting. When we deal with parking lots or any development, especially in a higher density neighborhood like the North End is located, concerns that we hear a lot of times is the lighting issue, parking and traffic flow. So those are things that we definitely look at from the development review team aspect. We have those requirements in place, especially, to be honest with you, lighting is a big issue. So those are things that we hear complaints about. And how we address that. So the best route, Carrie, would be to have the individuals reach out to our office, and we can explain to them the process, get that information and directly input that involved with the impact of that. We'll have to follow what the code requirements are for that, and sometimes it's just providing some of the information to the concerned individual about, what's required, what's allowed, what they can do and what they can't do, and that's something that our office is very more than welcome and open to help assist with the Dietermans with regards to their requests. So one other thing I just want to just kind of discuss specifically is, like Sheena mentioned, we talked to the engineering department, traffic flow through the area. White Street is not very wide to begin with. It's not your full width street in certain areas. So we did look at how the flow is going to go through the parking lot. And when we talk about the one-way flow, we're talking about one-way flow just through the parking lot. White Street will still be the two-way traffic, and then 30th Street along with those aspects. So.
Thank you. I mean, it sounded like one thing that was a big theme of the meeting and the concerns were things beyond the realm of the Copper Kettle in the neighborhood that are just directly, things that can go to the engineering department from citizens as well, I believe. That's all. I have no concerns about the application.
All right, very good.
Man, I would have one comment. Another common concern was the speed of traffic on White Street. That wouldn't be something the commission would address, but I think any concerns about that would be better directed towards the police department, as was mentioned before, asking for extra enforcement, that sort of thing.
Mr. Chair, if I can also add, so as you know, you guys are, it's a public hearing, you review and make a recommendation. This does go on to the city council for another public hearing discussion. So all the information that's taken at this meeting, so just that aspect of just having that conversation about traffic and speeding, that will be directed to the council as well as we go through there. So there's another opportunity to address the city council specifically through the public hearing process too, so.
All right. Thank you, Wally. Thank you, Rich. Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to rezone the property at 110 East 30th, 114 East 30th, and 2987 Jackson from C1 Neighborhood District and R2A, alternate two-family residential, to C2 Neighborhood Shopping Center. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Sheena?
Lorman,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Zakaro,
Aye.
Mulligan.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes as submitted. That will go to the city council, as you heard, on
December 4th.
December 4th.
This
Monday.
This Monday,
That's
December
Monday.
4th.
Yes, thanks, Molly.
Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening.
That's why.
Well, let's see here.
Curious about
Do we have to go through any of this other stuff, Sheena, or is that it?
If you want to just highlight we can just, normal procedure, I guess.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Any items from the public? Seeing none. Any items from the commission? Seeing none. Any items from staff?
Thank you for your organizing to get together in short notice for a special meeting.
All right.
We get to do it all again next week.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move. Second.
All right, so moved.
All in-
Meeting adjourned.
All in favor?
Aye.